He has a country named after him, a scholarship that still sends students to Oxford in his name, and a statue that survived a global protest movement without moving an inch. Cecil John Rhodes is one of history's most honored empire builders. He is also the man whose laws pushed African families off their own land, whose companies crushed 2 wars to keep it, and whose private letters called his own race the finest on earth. Cape Town, March 26, 1902. For black horses pull a gun carriage through the streets. Thousands line the route to bury Rhodes as a national hero, a man who built an empire out of diamonds and dust. Flags fall to half-mast across 2 continents. But 600 miles north, in the reserves of the Transkei, men are still leaving their villages under a law he wrote 8 years earlier, a tax on every able-bodied male who refuses to work for a white employer. The law is called the Glen Grey Act. It will outlive him by decades. Rhodes arrived in South Africa in 1870, a sickly teenager sent from an English vicarage to recover his health on his brother's cotton farm. Within a year he was in Kimberley, where a single hill of blue earth had become the richest diamond field on the planet. Thousands of small claims covered the ground, each one worked by a different digger. Rhodes did not dig for long. He bought, claim by claim, company by company, until by 1888 one firm controlled nearly the entire world supply of diamonds. He named it De Beers Consolidated Mines. The company did not just mine the ground, it controlled the men who worked it. Black laborers were housed in closed compounds, searched on exit, forbidden to leave until their contracts ended. The system was designed to stop diamond theft. It also became a blueprint for controlling an entire workforce by race, years before that word carried its later weight. By 1890, Rhodes was Prime Minister of the Cape Colony. He held that office and the chairmanship of De Beers at the same time, along with control of a private company that had just been granted something no ordinary business receives, a royal charter to govern land. The British South Africa Company. Under its charter, Rhodes's agents pushed north into the territories of the Matabele and the Shona, promising mineral rights in exchange for treaties the local rulers barely understood. When the promises did not hold, the company brought rifles. Maxim guns fired on Matabele warriors at the Battle of Shangani in 1893. Within months, King Lobengula was dead, his kingdom absorbed into a new territory the company simply named after its founder, Rhodesia. 3 years later, the Matabele and the Shona rose together against company rule, against forced labor, cattle seizures, and a police force that answered to no one but Rhodes's men. The uprising is remembered as the Second Matabele War. It was crushed with the same weapons that had ended Lobengula's kingdom. Rhodes rode into the Matabele Hills afterward and negotiated peace directly with the surviving chiefs, an act still framed in some accounts as diplomacy. What it settled was who now owned the land. Then came the question that always sat beneath the politics: money. Diamonds alone were not the empire Rhodes wanted. Gold was, and the largest gold reef on earth sat under the Transvaal, a Boer republic outside British control, governed by a President Rhodes despised. In December 1895, his close friend Leander Starr Jameson led an armed raid across the border, meant to trigger an uprising among British miners in Johannesburg and hand the goldfields to Rhodes's allies. The uprising never came. The raiders were captured within days. The scandal forced Rhodes to resign as Prime Minister. Even his own government could not survive what his ambition had authorized. What nobody in London wanted to examine too closely was the philosophy underneath all of it. In a document he titled his Confession of Faith, written in 1877 when Rhodes was 24 and a decade away from his first fortune, he called the British the finest race in the world, and argued that the more of the world they inhabited, the better it would be for humanity. He imagined a secret society, funded by his own wealth, dedicated to bringing as much of the globe as possible under British rule. That exact society never formed. But the idea underneath it, wealth converted directly into territory, shaped nearly every company charter and every land law that followed. Back in the Cape, the Glen Grey Act had already put that idea into administrative form. Passed in 1894, it broke communal land into individual plots too small to support a family, then imposed a labor tax on any man who did not leave to work for wages. Rhodes called it, without irony, a bill for Africa. A fellow legislator, John X. Merriman, stood in Parliament and told him his premises were wrong, that African farmers on that land already outproduced the mines that had made him rich. Rhodes's answer did not change the vote. The act passed, and in the years after, tax defaults turned into evictions, and evictions turned into a migrant labor system that would outlast the Cape Colony itself, feeding workers into the mines of a country not yet called South Africa. Rhodes died in 1902, at 48, his heart worn out long before old age. His will left the bulk of his fortune to found a scholarship at Oxford, open, in his own words, to the best men for the world's fight, drawn from the colonies, the United States, and Germany. For decades that meant white men only. The scholarship bears his name to this day, funding thousands of students from the very countries his companies once governed by force. A bronze statue of Rhodes went up at the University of Cape Town not long after his death, and another at Oriel College, Oxford, where he had studied as a young man. Both stood for over a century as unremarkable campus fixtures, until 2015, when a student in Cape Town threw a bucket of human waste at the base of one. The protest that followed, Rhodes Must Fall, spread from South Africa to Oxford within weeks. Cape Town removed its statue in a matter of days. Oxford's governing college voted, debated, delayed, and in the end kept their standing, citing legal advice and the cost of removal. It is still there, above the High Street in Oxford, cut from stone, robed and gazing down at students who were never asked whether they wanted him watching.